I had a journey of applying to more than 200 jobs. That was more of the wake-up call that I needed to think, can I actually get off the treadmill? Every single one said, that's amazing, you're so brave. If I don't take the risk, will I regret it more? I never dread a Monday morning, and it can be much better.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Leaving Med. Today we are interviewing Malvika, who has left working as a doctor to work still for the NHS, but working on the corporate side in quality improvement. And she's been doing that for over a year now, so she's going to tell us all about it today. So, tell me a little bit about what it is that you're working in at the moment.
So I'm currently an associate quality improvement advisor for one of the NHS hospitals in Edinburgh.
Okay, sounds fancy. How did you end up doing that then?
To be honest, I kind of found myself in a trance applying for multiple different roles in the middle of the night, and somehow stumbled onto this one, and it just felt right. I feel like I had a journey of applying to more than 200 jobs, and this one just really sat right with me, and it felt right, and it just kind of fell into place.
Right, okay. So let's go back a little bit so you're working as a doctor in the UK, and then at what point did you think, no, I can't do this anymore, I want to leave?
To be honest, I never actually myself came to the conclusion that I wanted to leave medicine. I finished my F2, and then I went straight into applying for trust grade jobs. And, the hospital was being kind of a bit hard to get. Oh, we don't have jobs. No, we don't have vacancies. And at that point, I was really burnt out. I was really, really struggling mentally and physically with my health. And so I decided I'm going to take a break and I'm going to come back to medicine. That was always the plan. And I kind of packed up from the UK, went back home to where my parents live. And it was my mum who had a look at me and just said, "You look miserable. You're so miserable. If you're miserable 2 years in, this is the rest of your life. It's not going to get better from here. It's going to get harder." And I think that was more of the wake up call that I needed to think, can I actually get off the treadmill? Like, is there actually other places to be? I think it's just our identities are so tied to the job that it's almost impossible to look outside of it.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes it does take family to see that and flag it up to you, especially because they're usually the first port of call when it comes to, complaining about the job and that sort of thing. So you struggle to find a trust grade job. You go home. What's the sort of time scale of all this?
So I started F1 in the middle of COVID. I finished F1 December 2022 because I was out of sync because of COVID. And then I took all of 2023 off. And the plan was to just take a break for 6 months. And then I promised myself that after 6 months, I would recuperate and start looking for jobs again. And I thought that would be a medical job. Turned out not to be by the time I'd finished that 6 months. But yeah, so it almost took me 6 months to find a new job though.
And so what sort of jobs were you looking for? Or was this just medical jobs?
By the time that I got to the part of my year when I decided I want to look for a new job, I'd already decided that I didn't want to stay in medicine anymore. And it was really hard because there's just so many different things you can do. Once you start looking, it's really overwhelming. You can kind of go into absolutely anything. There's this lovely podcast called Squiggly Careers, which I listen to, which basically highlights how other people look at their jobs and their careers, and they look at it as like a squiggly journey. It's not like a straight, yellow brick road. And so that kind of just opened my mind, and I thought, there is so many possibilities. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. And the more I looked, the more I saw that people had gone into all sorts of things, from finance to NGOs to consulting. There were so many options. And the thing that helped me the most was to sit down and understand what was my issue with medicine, what was the problem with clinical medicine that I was facing, and then work backwards from there. So I think a pros and cons list is wonderful. Everyone should make a pros and cons list. I remember I had a really long cons list and a very short pros list. Um, and then I kind of sat with the cons and I thought, what is at the bottom of all of this? What is the source of all of this? And I realized that I had faced a lot of moral injury, which is quite common in people who've been through things like war, but also a lot of healthcare workers after COVID had a lot of moral injury, which was basically that you had witnessed things that were against your principles or your morals or the way you thought the world should work. And at that point, I thought, okay, well, if this is the source, if this is the problem, what are my morals? What are my values? I had to name them. There's lovely sources online. There's ChatGPT now, so you can go on an exploration of your values. And I think those words, those keywords, those things that I live my life for and with really helped me. And I kind of took my values and then tried to find a job that was aligned to my values. And so most of my values are around impact, and around, I knew I didn't want to be in a healthcare setting that was private. I didn't want to, take advantage of people for money. That was never the goal. And I wasn't leaving for money. I was leaving for very different reasons. And so I tried to align the job with the things that I was leaving for and the impact that I wanted to create in the world. I think that really helped me narrow down what I wanted to apply for.
So you had impact on that list. What else was on your list of values?
So I think that my number one was freedom. I think that was one of the things I was really struggling with in medicine, especially being on a visa. You can't really go down more than 80%. The rota kind of dictates your life. And as a junior doctor, you don't really have as much autonomy either. You're kind of constrained. You're working within very specific requirements almost. And so my life felt very constricted. I couldn't get annual leave when I wanted. I couldn't go home to visit my family. I couldn't travel. Those things really affected me a lot. Those are my main ones, freedom and impact. And that's how I navigate the world and make all my decisions. And I wasn't feeling like I was creating the impact in the world that I wanted. And I wasn't free in the setup as I saw it.
Yeah, because a lot of people go into medicine because they want to make a positive impact on people's lives, and working as a doctor is high in impact. But as you say, it's that sort of balance between all the negative things that tip it over into being unsustainable as a job.
I think it's also about perspective, because you can look at medicine and think, I'm creating a really big impact. And then the same person, a different person could be doing the exact same job and think, I'm not creating enough of an impact. I think it's about perspective really does play a role. Like, how do you, almost the lens that you're looking at the world with and you're looking at your job with. So the same thing can be really impactful for one person, but not very impactful for another.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, as a doctor, you're only treating that one person in front of you at that time. Although people will always remember, the doctor that was there for them when their family member was dying, or maybe that GP that's been with their family their whole life. But then, in sort of what you're doing now, you have that opportunity to have maybe a larger impact because you're implementing change that affects more people, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it was also about just the perspective of, even just with that person, with that patient, I felt like I couldn't go far enough because the system was failing them again and again. And I just kind of got stuck in that loop. I couldn't look past that. It was like I could have done everything perfectly. I could have gone above and beyond. And I still didn't feel like that patient was getting as much as they could have if that systemic, constraint wasn't there. And it's easy to blame the system. It's very difficult to change it. Um, and it's just about where you want to create that impact in your life.
Yeah. So you wrote this list of the values that are important to you. And then when you were looking at jobs, how did you were you just looking at everything and anything, or how did you sort of narrow it down into what field you wanted to go into?
So I think I decided I wanted to be in public healthcare. I think I decided that I didn't want to be in private. It just didn't align with my values. And then in public healthcare, there was a lot of different things that I wanted to explore. So there was user experience, there was research, there was like products, IT, startups. And I think we in medicine don't really realize how difficult the job market is, especially as the economy gets worse. It's harder and harder to find a job. On top of that, I was trying to find a job with a visa. And so it is kind of a numbers game. You kind of have to, apply to everything and anything, interview for many things, and then narrow it down from there. And even to the point that every single, like, I didn't have a specific job I wanted to go to, but I did realize that it was always going to be a stepping stone. It was not going to be the final thing that I settled in. So I was happy to have any kind of stepping stone, because the point is to be in it for a year or two, build up the skills you want, and then, step somewhere else. So it was almost trying to make any kind of, get your foot in the door or any kind of lateral move. I think that we have this perception in medicine that you just get on the treadmill and it's a very specific path. You follow the path, you do the things, and you get to your destination. In the job market outside of medicine, you kind of have to have a few stepping stones. You're going to have jobs you don't like. You're going to have jobs that are not perfect, but you're going to basically learn things on the way there. And it's about how do you sell what you've learned rather than what exactly are you doing that matters more outside of medicine, I think.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And it's sort of, thinking, some people might think, oh, well, I'm not going to leave until I find the perfect job because it's too much of a risk, or it's a step down in pay or something like that. But it's sort of thinking of it more as an investment into your future, and realizing that it's going to take a little bit of a while to get there. And from every job, it's learning what you do and don't like about that field or that specific job, isn't it? So you found this job that you're working in now. Can you tell me a little bit more about what the job involves?
We've got a quality improvement team across the trust, that works across all the different hospitals in the trust, and they work together as a big directorate. And then every single hospital in our trust has their own quality improvement team. And we basically coordinate the quality improvement across the site, but we also pick up bigger projects on our own. And we kind of have our own specialties. So I'm specifically the quality improvement advisor for the front door. So I only work in medicine and mostly at the front door. We've got someone who has a special interest in cancer. We've got someone who has a special interest in surgery. So the work is kind of independent. You're independently managing multiple projects, but you're also in a team and have management and support from the entire team. But it's more of a facilitating improvement rather than doing it yourself, but at a bigger scale in the hospital.
Right. So who d- who are you overseeing that does the improvement?
So ideally, improvement should always be done by the people working in the system. So for example, if the front door, if the emergency department, they want to do something related to their triage or some kind of quality improvement project, they should be leading it. I should be facilitating it. So you don't want to do improvement to people because they won't accept the change. They have to be involved in the change themselves. We kind of just help them with the analysis, with the journey, and like structure everything. But ideally, it should be done by the person experiencing the change.
So do they tend to come to you with project ideas, or is it something that you reach out to staff kind of trying to prompt these projects to be initiated, or?
So they kind of work in both ways. There's projects that the staff will bring to us and say, hey, this is a really big problem that we're trying to solve. Can you help us? And then, other things will be like the government has said you need to meet the 4 hour target, or, the CEO has said that this is a problem. Or, we're looking at our data and finding, we're making a lot of errors in this area, or there's a lot of harm in this area. And then we kind of work through that. But it works both ways.
So what does the day to day look like then for you?
Um, so it varies because I also work hybrid. But at any given point, I have a few projects that I'm working on. And depending on what that project needs and what kind of work I'm doing on the day is how I set myself up. So a lot of the times we are setting up the infrastructure for someone to do a quality improvement project. So we'll be observing a department to understand how they work. We'll be mapping out their processes. Um, we will then create a plan with everyone. We'll be in meetings with all the staff. We'll be in meetings with managers and the directors of the hospital, trying to understand what do we want to do, what's our plan for the improvement, and then we'll go into the actual phase of improvement, our PDSA cycles. We help with data collection, we help with data analysis. We're then presenting the data and then deciding next steps from that. We might also be sharing it across the site to say, hey, this thing has really worked well in this area. Why don't you try it? Or we tried this in this area, it didn't work. Maybe it's not worth replicating everywhere else. So it's so varied, and we work across the entire quality improvement journey. Um, so it could be that I'm running around doing observations or creating different tools, but I also might be just at home doing some data analysis, creating an Excel sheet for someone. So it really, really varies.
And it sounds to me like you might create your own sort of deadlines in a way if you're leading all these projects.
There is seasonality in medicine. Like winters are really tough for everyone. There's more people in the hospital, there's more pressures. So a lot of our stuff just completely goes to a halt in winter. And then summer is the time that everyone has time to do improvement projects. The trainees are coming in, they want to do new things in August. So it kind of varies with seasons. But we might have deadlines from the government, we might have deadlines from finance. We have internal deadlines, but it's not as strict and drawn in stone. Sometimes it is just like, I'm waiting for this piece of data, I'm waiting for analysis.
And if you don't mind me asking, what does the pay um, look like, and how does it compare to sort of where you left as an F2?
So I'm currently on a band 6. So the NHS kind of has pay bands. So I'm on a band 6 as an associate. And that means that in my first and second year, I take £37,000 before taxes. So it kind of ends up being around £2,500 per month. It's very similar to what I took home as an F2, and that's for working 37 and a half hours. So I wouldn't say it's more pay, it's almost the same, but for way less work. And I also work flexible hours. I have a compressed work week, so I only work 9 days out of 10 in 2 weeks.
Yeah, so it sounds almost like you've moved across slightly up in pay, isn't it? Okay. And in this role, what sort of future career options are there, or pay increases are there for this role?
So, as I said, you do have to think of your career as more of stepping stones rather than a treadmill. There is a treadmill option. So if I wanted to go from associate quality improvement advisor, I can go to quality improvement advisor, and then, you know, like higher management in quality, head of quality. So you can go up that treadmill, or you can start moving laterally. So it's more of the skills. So now I have data skills, I have quality improvement skills, I'm doing a leadership program that's offered by the government. So it's building all those skills to now move across laterally into anywhere I want to go. Technically, if I wanted to be the CEO of a trust, I could be. If I wanted to go into consulting, I can go into quality improvement in petroleum. I can go anywhere. It's about, building up those skills and then finding where do you want to um, hop and skip and jump. Um, so it's not really as linear. So you can kind of go anywhere.
Okay, so you could go and work in quality improvement for a random industry, random company.
My manager came from quality improvement in tires and concrete, I think, or building. It's a skill you can use anywhere.
And for you now, you've been in this role for a year, is that right?
Yeah.
Are you planning on jumping or hopping anywhere soon?
So I'm thinking about it. I think I'm thinking about where do I want to go next. I miss being more clinical. So I do miss, having those patient stories. And I think even when I'm doing work now, where it's more related to patient safety and patient stories, I really enjoy those a bit more. So I'm trying to find that balance of still wanting to be on the corporate side, still being in quality improvement, and still utilizing data to make systemic change, but maybe being a bit more specifically involved with patient safety.
Are there any specific projects that you found interesting or that you've enjoyed?
Um, I think, as I was saying, like the stuff where I get to be involved in more patient related stuff is more fun for me. So at the front door, I've done a big piece around triage. We're doing a piece around frailty at the front door. I really enjoy those bits. I've worked in the emergency department before. I like acute settings. So I really like those bits of my work a lot. And specifically where there's really large data sets, I have become someone who's obsessed with Excel. I love it so much. It is my new personality. And I can, if someone gives me a really large data set, I can just spend days with it, not looking anywhere, being in a flow state. And I really, really enjoy that work.
Flow state in Excel. that's a that's a niche right there. I can't say I've ever done that. So did you have anything, specific on your CV that sort of made them want to hire you, or what would you say is needed in order to start in a role like this?
So I think we really underestimate ourselves as doctors. Being someone who has an expertise in medicine is quite a huge thing. And on the corporate side, actually, most people on the senior side are nurses, or they are, business graduates. So having that knowledge of how things actually happen on the floor, how doctors work and respond on a daily basis, what are the kind of pressures they face, is really key. And then you're able to kind of use that in the role and really create a niche for yourself because you have that expert knowledge from the ground. But I think the one thing that really helped my CV was that I had a really good quality improvement project. So I'd done one in the emergency department when I was an F2, and we were able to make a sustainable long term change where we changed our local guidelines. That I think was the most impressive thing on my CV. And that's the thing that actually made me the preferred candidate. It was because I'd done quality improvement, multiple cycles of it, and made a sustained change. So if there's something like that, where most of the time our quality improvement projects, we do like we make a poster, we do some teaching, and then we move on, and then no one's actually doing the improvement hasn't actually lasted after we've left. We're on rotational basis, but we were actually able to have it ingrained into the hospital's guidelines. So trying to have that sustained change, that sustainable change, things that actually continue to improve, I think is key.
Yeah, that's helpful. Um, it always just feels like that extra thing that you have to squeeze in your minimal spare time, though, doesn't it? I mean, I think often when you're working, you've got so many ideas,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, if only this or this would make a great QI project. But it is hard to put that into practice, isn't it?
I think the thing we really struggle with is that we try to go really big. Um, so if I was to, as a junior doctor, think of like, doing a multiple cycle QI project, I would start with like 30 patients, and then that would be one cycle. And then I would, wait for 2 months and then do another really big collection of data for my second cycle. But in reality, we start really, really small. So trying one thing with one doctor on one single patient is one cycle. And then doing, learning from that and then doing it to one more patient or two more patients is the second cycle. It can be really, really small, and you can grow it very, very slowly. And the best projects actually start off really small. And I think we forget that. So I would say start off really small. One PDSA cycle can be done in 5 minutes if you start small enough. And then you can just move from that. And it's those things that you've, tried really, really robustly in a really small population that will be of value and, be taken over really quickly um, by people because they've seen it tried robustly in really, really small populations and see it work. So they'll be less resistant to the change as well. And that's how you incorporate things into the system long term. You don't have to start big at all. Start tiny, one cannula, one patient, really, really small, and then go up from there.
Mm. I remember when I was working in obs and gynae, I found it so stressful because you're basically a cannula monkey, and you just got to urgently put in these grey cannulas in these women who are in labour, um, and or they assist, they've spiked a temperature, and so you have to do a sepsis screen for these women in labour. And then the bloods trolley was different to the where they kept the blood cultures, and everything was scattered, and so it took you far too long to find what you needed. And so I reached such frustration that I was like, right, I'm reorganizing the bloods trolley. I'm gonna create it in a systematic way and like put labels at the bottom of each thing so that hopefully it's refilled in the same place. But naturally, then the person who then comes along and refills it just shoves whatever in whatever drawer where it's always been, Um, and I was like, oh my god, imagine if you just had a universal bloods and cannula and blood culture bottle
Oh,
that was
brilliant.
like the same across all hospitals. Because even like, I was like trying to find a blood culture bottle sometimes, isn't it? Like, I was like, how has this not been done? Why is every single blood trolley organized in a completely different way when
Absolutely.
that is like, I need that blood gas syringe now for us, in an arrest or something like that.
Yeah,
But that was like
absolutely.
the main time that I was like, I really wish I could do this as like a QI project. But then you just, naturally you move on to the job, and now I'm working in GP, so it's not so relevant to me anymore. But yeah, I think that was, I always think about that.
We forget, like, there's this beautiful quote that I remember someone told me in my first few weeks of starting, that a system is designed perfectly for the results that it does achieve. And it blew my mind. And it was almost like, wait, so it doesn't really matter how hard I work or, what I do differently every single day. The system is designed for exactly the results it's getting. And so to change the results, you have to change the system. It's not it shouldn't be dependent on how hard someone works.
Mm.
You should be trying to change the underlying structure that's making you work at 150% to generate any results at all.
Yeah, and I think it's always the little things that make the job far more stressful than they need to be. Like it's
Absolutely.
always finding things. You can never find the things you need, and you're on call covering like 9 different wards, and you're just like, if only I could find the things I needed.
Can you
Um,
imagine that happening in like an Amazon warehouse where they can't
no,
find your parcel?
I know you order something on Amazon, and then 30 minutes later, it's like it's been dispatched. You think that level of efficiency, is what we should
Absolutely.
aspire to, isn't it? In the
Someone's
NHS.
working for that.
And
Someone
that's
is.
just for profit. That's not for saving lives, isn't it?
Exactly. We just need to take that and use it
Mm,
here.
yeah. Can I ask you, what did your friends think when you said, "Oh, actually, I'm not gonna continue working as a doctor. I've got this other job in this, corporate side."
So it's really interesting because I personally had a lot of guilt for leaving. And, this was my identity. This was something I'd worked so long for. And then a lot of my friends are medics. So these are people that I'm leaving, to do something else, to take care of my own health. And so I had a lot of guilt. But funnily enough, every single medic I've left, like I've told or I've met after I've left, has never asked me, why did you leave? Not a single one of them. Every single one said, that's amazing. You're so brave. That says so much, doesn't it? So even the consultants I meet now at my work today, when they find out I was a doctor, they were like, good job on getting out. And that just says so much, doesn't it? Because we look at them as the final result. When I'm a consultant, it'll all be great. I'll have a good life. For them to turn around and say, good job getting out, for all of my friends, every single one of them, not a single one of them questioned my decision. Everyone just said, you're so brave. I wish I could have done that.
Yeah. We don't need to ask you what is it that you struggled with in medicine, or why did you feel the need to leave. I think, yeah, everyone can empathize with that. And it is brave, to leave and venture and do something different, because we've been had our eye on being a doctor since we were 17 in most cases. um, and it's hard to think outside the box and to leave that so-called security
Hmm.
behind, although it seems like now it's becoming less secure for the F2s finishing now.
Yeah.
um, yeah, it is a big leap of faith.
For me, I just thought, if I don't take the risk, will I regret it more? Or if I take the risk, hate it, and then come back to medicine a year later, will I regret that more? I think there's no shame in trying something else and saying, hey, that didn't work for me. I think I'm going to go back to where I was. But having not tried it, it'll always haunt you.
Yeah, medicine is not going anywhere. What is the best part now of your new life, let's say?
I mean, hybrid working is amazing. I love it. Um, I think my team is just so incredibly supportive, and that makes the biggest difference. I mean, these people have just created such a supportive and psychologically safe environment for me. And I never felt that in medicine, unfortunately. I really wish I did. But that makes the biggest difference. I never dread a Monday morning. Never. It's totally fine. I'm working from home. I'm gonna, be in a meeting with some of my favorite people, and we're gonna make things better. We're gonna work on things that are impactful and important. And it's not to say that it's all rainbows and sunshine all the time. I do get really frustrated sometimes, but it's the really small things that make such a big difference. Also, having my annual leave approved immediately as soon as I put it in with no questions ever is amazing. Uh, Low key, I was like, am I being gaslit? What's going on? Um, and
Is this an error in the computer system? Like,
yeah, and like I've taken some of my dream trips and been able to travel with my family and see my friends and attend their weddings, and it's the small things that really make a really big difference to your life. And I wish everyone had that. And I hope that we're moving toward that for everyone.
Wow, not dreading Monday mornings. That's a claim.
I used to start thinking about Monday morning on Saturday morning.
Gosh,
I
yeah.
had such an existential dread of Monday mornings. And now I'm just like,
Mm.
oh, Monday morning, Friday night, it's all the same. It's totally fine.
I think F1 and F2, F1 especially, was that Sunday dread of just in the pit of your stomach. Oh, you just. Oh, I mean, I think it's gotten a little bit better now for me, but I definitely don't like Mondays.
I used to have nightmares, all of F1 and F2, just about ECGs and bloods and candulas.
Oh gosh, yeah.
um, but honestly, I think coming out of medicine has almost even given me the strength to go back in. I have been considering, if to advance in my career, if I wanted to ever go back, how would I do things differently? I have such a different mindset now. I've taken the time to take care of my health and become more resilient. So sometimes you just have to step out to step back in.
To heal.
Obviously, coming from a place of immense privilege, I was able to do that. I didn't have responsibilities, I didn't have a mortgage, and my parents were so supportive. So it's not an easy thing to do, but there is ways to do it while you're, even in medicine. You can do stuff part time, you can build skills and just try to make the jump.
But it's kind of intimidating when you say that you had to apply for 200 odd jobs. It does sound quite scary.
The thing was, it also helped that I never got rejected from any jobs because I was unqualified. I was mostly overqualified, or I didn't meet the visa requirements. And I think that really was something that made me realize that we have a lot of skills and we are really, really good undergraduate students. And we've got such depth to us. It's just about the way that you frame your experience outside of medicine. It's more about like how you've written your CV and how are you selling yourself rather than what you've actually done.
Yeah, and it's sort of realizing that those job requirements aren't set in stone.
Oh, absolutely. Like I had 4 weeks of training. I didn't have to know anything to come in here. So they were taking me for, my medical knowledge, and because I'd done a QI project before, but actually it's done very differently when you do it on the corporate side versus when you do it, as a junior doctor. Most jobs will train you. I did not know how to do anything on Excel. I'm now like an advanced level Exceller. So they absolutely will train you, and I think they really also it's an investment for them. They're investing in someone that they want to keep long term, that they hope will give back.
Have you got any advice for someone that might be starting to think about the different options that they've got, sort of how to process it,
Hmm.
or any tips?
So I think first of all, it's really important to be clear on the why. Why are you leaving? What is not don't just talk about the surface level reasons. What is the real reason at the core? What is the reason you're leaving? And then think about, okay, what aligns with my values? What kind of jobs? Have that mindset of this is a stepping stone. It's not my final destination. And just start thinking about what skills do I need to build. So if you just type like quality improvement NHS jobs, you can see old posts that people have already expired and people have already taken. But you can see the job specifications, and you can start thinking about, okay, you can do Excel courses on YouTube, you can do a really good QI project and have it in hand. Whatever the person specifications for whatever job you're looking at, just start looking at job boards. There's so many alternative career websites for medics. There's so many stories of medics who've left. LinkedIn is amazing. Go on LinkedIn, stalk people, talked to people. There were so many amazing people who I reached out to them, and they were so happy to help me and to give me advice. Um, it is you do have to walk out of your comfort zone a little bit. You do have to do a bit of networking. You do have to get out there and find what's going on. Um, but it's not as hard as you would think. It's not impossible at all. Um, and there's something for everyone. And, like even specialty training, I know at the moment it's like 15 is to 1 competition ratios. It's not easy. Nothing is easy. Nothing will come to you easy. We've been working so hard. And a lot of the stuff you've already done, just said in the right way on your CV, can get you your dream job. You just have to look out there. Just go and talk to people, network. It's intimidating. There's no, nice treadmill. There's no yellow brick road. But it's kind of liberating that you can kind of piece together whatever you want. You can create your own life. You can, you know, and you're not stuck. You can always go back. You can say, this was a wrong decision. You almost have to like push yourself out your comfort zone to realize all of this is temporary and everything is in your control. So try to take control of the things that you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think now with the competition ratios, there's going to be a lot of people
Mhm.
actually seriously considering
Mhm.
doing something different. Whereas they might have just, entered training because it wasn't that difficult to get into before, say for example, GP training or something like that. Whereas now, even GP and IMT
Mm.
are super competitive.
Yeah. It also helps to just have a coach. Like, honestly, if you are struggling and you're genuinely serious and you want to talk to someone, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I've had so many phone calls with so many medical students and FY2 doctors to just coach them through it.
That's useful.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you're thinking about maybe going back into medicine
Mhm.
in some form. What would
Mhm.
that look like for you?
I think for me personally, if a future job requires me to be a consultant, I'd probably enter GP training
Hmm.
because I know it would be easier to enter quick. There's a deadline, there's a 3-year training program, there's a deadline. I get my CCT. Um, and so I'm entertaining the idea, but I
Hmm.
know I wouldn't want to be clinical full time.
Hmm.
I would always want to be on the corporate side.
Yeah, it seems like such a mystery, this corporate NHS, because in a lot of ways we don't really interact sort of day
Yeah.
to day. Just seems to be all these offices in random hallways, isn't it?
Yeah. I didn't even know we had a quality improvement team in hospitals. Like, I'd never come
No,
across them.
no, me
I
neither.
didn't know there's a patient engagement team, there's a quality improvement team, there's an audit team, there's an assurance team, there's a governance team. There's a lot of stuff happening in the background we just don't know about because we're too busy.
Which one do you think is the best one then to get into?
I think it depends on what you want to do. Yeah, there's so many options and there's so many different personalities. Do you want to work in a team? Do you want to work separately? Where do you want to create the impact? What kind of lifestyle do you want? I don't think there's no good and bad.
And is there an opportunity for you to go part time in this role in the future?
So I'm on a visa at the moment. Once I get my settled status, I can go part time. But there's on the corporate side, there's more of a chance to build like a portfolio career, which is basically that you do little bits and pieces of different things to create a full time job. So you could be doing quality improvement 2 days, clinical 2 days, and like consulting 1 day. You could kind of have a mix. But there are options for flexible working and compressed hours where you basically do the same amount of hours just in less days. So a lot of people are on a 4-day work week. I'm on a 9-day fortnight. It gives you that extra breathing room.
So, say if you were a GP and you wanted to get into quality improvement,
Mhm.
would there be a way to go in and do it like 2, 3 days a week then?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I know consultant anesthetists who work in the hospital and also do quality improvement 1 or 2 days a week. There's definitely ways to get into it. I think you have to become a bit of a leader in quality improvement rather than just doing it on your own. There's lots of national programs, there's a lot of NHS funded programs that you can, learn how to be an improvement leader, get some formal education on quality improvement. But there's loads of ways to have a bit of a back and forth kind of career.
Interesting. For those who are currently working as a doctor, dreading it every day, what would you tell them?
I don't want to, underestimate anyone's experience because I know it's really hard sometimes and you're going through a really tough time. But I'd say, firstly, try to take care of yourself. That will improve things so much. Even just, being able to move a little bit more, feeding yourself on time, being more hydrated, all of these like human factors have a huge impact on your life. But also, I would say, think about your perspective. Think about, are you being really harsh on yourself? Are you adding to your own despair and dread? Is there a different way that you could think about things? You know, there's ways to like CBT yourself and change your perspective. Is there ways that you could incorporate things either in work or outside of work that would make your life more fulfilling? Don't think about the things you can't control. Think about the things you can control. What can I control? It might be having a nice meal, having a packed lunch, taking your break on time. It might be going maybe 80% and then doing a dance class on your days off or going to the gym on your days off. How can you make your life better? Take the tiniest step. It can be a 2% solution. And if your life is 2% better, that's still better. So you can make your life 2% better tomorrow and then another 2 day after and then move from there. Any agency, anything that reduces that dread, anything that makes your overall life better will have knock-on effects.
And sort of finally, do you think it's worth making the leap?
Personally, for me, it was very worth it. I don't regret it at all. I am very thankful for my position and the support of my peers and my family. And I genuinely want to be able to help anyone who wants to make the leap. You can genuinely contact me on LinkedIn for free, have phone calls with me, and I will coach you through it. It's not worth being miserable for a very long time. Either you learn how to be happy in medicine or you try to find it outside of that, either in your free time or by leaving. I think at some point you do have to just realize you're on a treadmill and you do have agency and you can change things and it can be much better.
Thank you. And so, if they wanted to contact you, so LinkedIn's the best way, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. I also have a YouTube channel. I can, if there's a demand, I can, if you have questions, you can send stuff and I can make videos for you. But I will leave my LinkedIn. I will leave some resources with you where they can check them out and start on the journey a little bit.
Great. Great. Amazing. Thank you so much.